Right now we're in East Oldham. It's in the bottom 5% of all English areas in terms of the multiple indices of deprivation. I'm the community worker here, so I organise community projects. We have a community cafe, we have a job club and a gym, which hosted at the church. I also help local community groups apply for funding. I do bits and pieces of environmental work, so we're trying to improve this park and do some work in the back alleys, and I also do stuff with for Acts 435. There is a fair amount of inter-ethnic tension around here. We had riots just down the road in 2001, and there is always the slight danger that will re-emerge, and so as new communities come into the area, often there's new tensions between different communities depending on where they are and how they kind of rub up against each other. And the housing stock around here is extremely poor. It's mostly Victorian terraces, which are worth very little, which means they rent for very little, which means that the landlords have little incentive to look after them, which means that they're very expensive to heat, they're very expensive to maintain, which obviously puts a burden on people who are in them, because so you have some of the poorest people in the country who are living in the cheapest housing stock, but then have really ridiculous bills. All the projects that we do basically bring in people with any number of different needs, which are often quite urgent, and those people will get to know us in quite an informal and personal way, and they often tell us about these problems. So we got some money for a young mother who'd actually got a job but couldn't start work until she'd got a disclosure and barring and various checks and bits of paperwork done, and we got some money to do that, and it meant that she could then get not one but two jobs. In fact, we subsequently found out. So she is now employed, and she has a living to pay for her young children, which is great. We've got people money to furnish flats that they've just moved into that are completely bare and they've got no income to furnish it with. We've had things, bits of money to help people who just don't have any food in the house because they've been sanctioned or because they've had to pay funeral costs or death duties and are waiting, for example, to get onto a new type of benefit or a new type of pension or whatever the scenario is. And sometimes, those delays can last a long time and people have no income.